episode 161. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
Dave, it feels like every once in a while we just have an episode that's a super difficult to record because technology hates you, potentially. Hates me, hates both of us. Who knows?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think you just said it before we recorded. Can I go back to Windows 10?
Yeah, it could be very well. Windows 11 does not like any of your setup.
Yeah, it doesn't like all this stuff plugged into it. All right. So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services around the world. You can watch us on Twitch when it wants to work. Twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming, where we are live currently. We are a Twitch affiliate, so you can subscribe to us. You can use your Amazon Prime account and link it with your Twitch account and get Prime Gaming. One of the benefits of Prime Gaming is that you get a free Twitch sub of your choice. If you want to use that on us, that's super cool. If you want to use it on another streamer, that's cool as well. Just make sure you give it to somebody and don't let Amazon keep it. Don't let Amazon keep that extra $2.50. It's like free money out there for any streamer that's affiliated. There are a bunch of other links in the show notes as well for you to join our community and hang out with us. I hope and I think I think it's a story that we're going to talk about with the rumored integration of Discord coming to. Yes, it is. Discord coming to PlayStation in March. I think we might actually be able to get a good mix of our community, just maybe even just hanging out in a Discord channel, like on a Friday night, Saturday night, Wednesday night, playing, even if everybody's playing random games. So join our Discord. The link is in the show notes. There's a bunch of categories in there. We can always grow and evolve and change it based on the needs of, maybe we'll have a special locked room for Michael and his 6 friends so they don't have to mess with us.
We already have a Discord server. I'm just saving you guys from having to deal with that.
But I would love personally to see a lot more stuff. I just feel like Discord is just kind of like a really good hybrid of like Facebook and like even going back in the day to Skype. Like everything kind of all mixed into one really good if you're comfortable using it. And then it'll just all mix together really well. And it all mixes, whether it's voice chat or video chat or text chat. It's just everything's in one place, and stuff does get buried, but there's ways to unbury it easily through threads and stuff. It's just, I really, really like Discord, and I can't wait for it to actually just to work on the PlayStation.
Just waiting for you to do like, hey, I'm going to play Destiny while we record the podcast this week or something.
I can't do that. I have multiple monitors here.
I know you can, but so, I don't trust you trying to run all that
self-control to not do that. So,
yeah.
All right. So there are, like I said, there are a bunch of links in the show notes. Reviewing the show helps tremendously, especially going into 2023. Maybe some people are doing some more stuff that they're listening to stuff, more podcasts, or they are, working out, doing any of their New Year's resolutions, or just maybe they're commuting to the office again now this year that they weren't before. Any of those things, and they can find our podcast by you reviewing it. It moves it up the algorithms, and all that fun stuff. So please check those out and review the show. We're gonna throw it over to the news now.
All right. First thing in the news is an apology to Dave because we're going to talk about Xbox Activision Blizzard news. Literally, I put in the notes. Sorry, Dave. We've got to talk about the new updates and craziness that is happening with Activision Blizzard's eventual takeover. So Microsoft is expected to receive a EU antitrust warning over the Activision Blizzard deal. The warning is basically like what they call a charge sheet, which will have all the things that the regulatory board would want Microsoft to do in order to acquire it. So just it's negotiation time. Microsoft has already sent like a statement of concessions they're willing to make, but the board isn't either allowed to look at it yet or won't look at it yet until they issue the statement officially to Microsoft. But there already is a deadline set. Apparently April 11th is the deadline when a decision will be made. So the next 2 months are going to be negotiations. But April is when we'll hear the end of this from the Europe side, which I'm sure Dave is thankful that we'll get some sort of resolution on that side. But to make things a little bit more difficult, in the U.S., Google and NVIDIA have expressed concerns to the FTC regarding the deal. Basically, they said Microsoft is going to have an unfair advantage in the cloud subscription and mobile gaming space if this deal goes through. And the FTC has basically said that if this deal goes to trial, that trial won't begin until August. So there's another potential deadline. So there's a chance it won't go to trial, but if it does, that will not start until August. So, Dave, at least there's dates now, right? Like,
sure, but I know it's in the next story, but it's been like a year.
It's the 1 year anniversary today when we're recording. Yeah,
since this was announced, and now we're talking about litigation with dates. So, like, it's been 365 days. And I feel like we're still at day one.
Yeah, it feels like there was a lot of time wasted, but we're finally getting closer to stuff happening. I don't know, because they said it would be done in the summer, and now with the FTC being like August if it goes to trial, is like, oh, this is going past the summer. And I don't know how long the trial would last in this situation.
And then, like, why does Google care?
Because they just shut Stadia down. Like, Stadia's last day was a day ago.
Yeah, so I understand that, like, there might be some deal with the studio that does a lot of the mobile games that makes Candy Crush. That's part of the Activision Blizzard umbrella. Like, I get it, but I feel like Google, for the most part, doesn't... I don't really classify them as a competitor.
No, but Google is a Microsoft competitor, and I think that's where it becomes their business.
I guess
even though
I
think it's a stretch.
I could see NVIDIA caring a little bit, because NVIDIA's really, like, doubling down on their cloud game services, like their subscription service for you to essentially, I'm going to get this wrong, but essentially rent a 4090 processing computer that you can play games through the cloud on. Maybe not to a 4090 extent, but like a high-end graphics card PC that you could play like on your laptop, and you're connecting similar to Stadia, similar to xCloud, and play a game at 120 frames a second. Like, because you're connecting to a server. And the stuff that some of the testing and the stuff I've seen of that NVIDIA subscription, it seems to be working really, really well. Like, a lot of people are pleasantly surprised, and the alternative is buying a $3,000 gaming PC or paying $30 a month for essentially unlimited, like almost a better version of Game Pass.
In terms of hardware, yes, but their thing is they're worried Microsoft will lock up some of the games and franchises behind their service, and they won't have access to it. So, like, I feel like they definitely have more of an argument than Google does, because Microsoft's not going to release.
NVIDIA would have bought them if they had the chance and they had the money. Like, that's the
problem
that I have with
everyone
these competitors.
Would, yeah.
Sony would have too.
Like, I just have a feeling a lot of companies didn't know they were up for sale. Like, maybe Activision didn't do their due diligence of seeing how many people are willing to purchase them, and they went to Microsoft first, and Microsoft didn't bat an eyelash and was like, yes.
I mean, like, if I asked you right now, Michael, like, oh, do you have any interest in selling all of your physical game collection? The answer to me, I would assume, would be no. But if I give you some ridiculous number that's like 4 or 5 times the value of what you consider your game collection valued at, like, there's going to be a conversation.
Yeah, no. And I have a feeling it was this conversation that happened where they went to maybe Xbox first, or Xbox came to them and was just like, hey, would you be willing to sell? And Activision's like, wasn't really thinking about it, but now that we're talking, and they took the offer. But now, I believe in Europe, like some gaming division in Europe that represents a bunch of different brands, they approved the deal, which should help them over in Europe. I have a feeling the FTC one, because it's U.S. politics, you're probably going to get people just trying to make their name off of making a big deal about this. But I assume the deal will go through, just because, like, they're going to keep Call of Duty on every platform. The King mobile gaming division is still going to be on Android and Apple products. So like there's not much of an argument. And again, Microsoft is like number 3, in the market, and this won't change that much. But Dave, there's at least light at the end of the tunnel in terms of like we have some
sure, and that light is a train coming fast.
Yeah, I mean, we can only hope, man. Anytime I hear stuff going to trial, it's just like, it's probably gonna get dragged out a little longer. And it's important for Microsoft to close this deal because when these acquisitions happen, I believe there are deadlines where Activision will begin paid out something the longer this deal takes.
Yeah.
And Activision also will get
past the window, the closure window.
Yeah, and it'll be up to, there's also, Activision will get paid a certain amount of money if the deal fails. Because it's basically, they took the risk of agreeing to this deal publicly, so it's on them, Microsoft, to
not to circle back to this, but the most similar circumstance to this was Musk and Twitter.
Basically.
They said no. They said they said yes. He started to backtrack, and they're like, whoa, like you can't do that now. Like that's not how this works. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the difference between that is Xbox has an agreement sheet with Activision Blizzard, and it's
a very broad, bland comparison. I'm just
but that's exactly what happened.
Like relatively current of like he's gonna buy it. Oh, now he doesn't want to buy it, but he bought it anyways.
Yeah, exactly. He threw a number out and screwed himself over.
Yeah.
But that was far more complicated because there was no agreement written down.
Right. Yep.
And that was handled
there's at least a
relatively
contract,
quick.
and I'm sure there's a failure clause in the contract, like you said.
Yes.
So
Activision will get paid
that's a known
something.
risk before both parties sign the contract. So
yeah, but I still think it would be doomed for Activision if the deal doesn't go through.
Well. And then for Microsoft as well, as they're getting ready to go to trial for this stuff, this next story does not help.
Yeah, we'll jump into that now. So Microsoft announced today that they're laying off about 10,000 employees from Microsoft as a whole. This is 5% of their workforce, a little under 5%. And the gaming division will be hit with layoffs. So the 3 studios that were announced today that had layoffs are what people were able to decipher because they haven't been public, but studios have sources that came forward to Bloomberg not too long ago. But Coalition, which is the Gears of War studio, were hit with layoffs. 343, the Halo studio, they were hit with layoffs. And Bethesda has been listed in news stories, specifically the Bethesda that works on Starfield. The Bethesda Starfield one, I imagine it's because the game's close to the finish line. That's usually when studios like let go of contractors and stuff. But yeah, those are the 3 studios that we know of now that have been hit with layoffs. And then the Xbox division itself is also being hit with layoffs, but we just don't know the extent because Microsoft is a huge company. So there's a lot of places they can pick off employees, unfortunately.
So I'm going to play both sides of this because I've lived this. I've had to lay people off. So the thing about this, though, and I do not want to trivialize this when I say this at all, 5% is not a lot. It's a lot of people, but there's 95% of their workforce that's still working.
And we're talking about they're in the 100,000 range of
correct.
employees, past
so
100,000.
10,000 is a lot. Like 10,000 is a lot. But with some of I feel like with a lot of the acquisitions that they've made, I do wonder how much redundancy, repetitive overhead existed in the company. And there are contingency, like we talked about it in depth with the Bungie Sony acquisition. There are contingency clauses. What did you call them? I'm sorry. To hold on to people, bonuses, clauses,
retention.
Retention. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. There are retention clauses. A lot of those things could be expiring, and it was probably, again, speculation, cheaper for them to hang on to them until their retention clause expired and then lay them off versus laying them off with an active retention clause. That's pure speculation on my part. But that would be a reason that I could see that, at least from the Bethesda side of it. The 343 side of it, there's no way to say this. Like, it failed. Halo failed. Halo is failing. And I don't see anything from... the only rumor that we've heard for a long time is some like Gears of War remasters, like trilogy remasters.
Coalition would possibly not even handle.
Right. So I don't know what, like, you know, this could be something that, again, you know, Phil or his board is going to Coalition and saying, hey, like, what's in your notebook? What's on the agenda? Like, oh, well, we don't really know yet. We're working on these 3 or 4 projects. And he's like, okay, well, until you get something to present to me, you got to cut your staff.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing anything. Like, you can't have 1,200 people working on staff. You got to cut 5. I don't even know. That's the crazy part, is that we know that people got laid off from Coalition, from 343,
but we don't know the
Bethesda.
number.
That could be 5,000. It could be 5 people.
Yeah. Microsoft's a big company. We're talking about, I think they actually might have like 200,000 employees, which is why this is 5%. Right. Or under 5%. So you're right, it could be a handful of people from each studio, or like they could have leveled like a complete department in one of their other arms of Microsoft. Because what Microsoft basically blames is a lot of tech companies are doing this right now, which is unfortunate, but during the pandemic they overstaffed because they saw the direction the world was going to at the time, and they're like, we need to build this cloud infrastructure, we need to have as many people on possible because we don't know how long the pandemic's going to end or how long it's going to last. And now we're seeing a lot of tech companies, unfortunately, they're just like laying people off because they overstaff for a time. I think someone put a chart that like Microsoft like increased their workforce several percentages more than they're laying off in this basically over the last like 2 years. So this sucks, and like the gaming division's being hit. Microsoft just feels like, or specifically Xbox, just feels like a mess in terms of their studios just not able to pump out games, and then this happens and just adds to it. Because like Halo had a chance to be big, and if it was still, you know, active in terms of like a community and people passionate about it and a live service game, we probably wouldn't have them in this discussion. But it didn't do well enough. Right. The Bethesda one, though, is like, to your point with the retention stuff, is probably because they brought all of Bethesda over, you know. Right. So you had like
retention, redundancy, multiple people doing the same jobs, you know, server maintenance. Like, I think I feel like, and I don't know because I don't know enough about this, but I do remember or recall at one point in time Bethesda had their own store.
Like they had their own online store that they closed last year.
And I'm sure that's all merging into Microsoft, or has already merged into Microsoft. Therefore, unfortunately, the majority of that staff is not really needed. You know, like that's a redundant. You know, you don't need people working on the servers when you're taking Bethesda and inserting it into a Microsoft server. Now the people that have been working on the Microsoft servers are just working on a larger server. You know, so. But again, we don't know the number, and you know, this is the part of of journalism world that I hate. It's factual, but at the same time, it's like you're just going with the bigger number.
yeah, and that's why, like in our notes, unfortunately, we see it. I put Microsoft is laying off 10,000 people, and people in the Xbox division are being let go, or the gaming division. But yeah, this is a terrible look when it's the 1-year anniversary of spending $69 billion. And that deal is not closing anytime soon. I believe the CEO is set to make $54 million in like compensation and salary, which is always never a good look. When that's, you know, you see those numbers and they're laying off as many people as they are. Yeah. But
to be fair, again, just to give people perspective, if you took the $54 million and divided it by the 10,000, it probably is still a salary below the poverty line. Like.
Yeah, you know, especially where they're, you know, all these different companies like are located.
I just like I get it. Like, are you like, oh, your boss is like super highly paid, well, like, but he also is in charge of 220,000 people.
No, but like when those numbers come out, and then we're talking about them trying to close a $69 billion deal,
right? And
who knows how much money is being put into getting that deal closed.
Yeah,
it's definitely a shame to see. And again, when it, like, not to just focus, there's a very human aspect that we're not really focusing on, but to like bring it back to games. Xbox still hasn't really delivered anything gaming wise until Starfield comes out, and even that, we don't know what that's going to end up becoming.
And I don't know like fully what I don't know fully what Microsoft develops anymore. I can't keep track of it from their softwares of what, like, you know, what's a Microsoft program. I think almost everything that's on, circling back to my Windows 11 computer, I think everything is Microsoft based. You know, but we've seen, to your point about the remote work, we saw an uptick in stuff of, you know, whether it's Microsoft Teams memberships and, you know, and all those things, and those things are plateauing or decreasing, and therefore when they decrease, like, they could have lost 3,000 people that are on the Microsoft Teams field because they don't need as much maintenance anymore because they don't have as much traffic anymore. It could be anything.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. Where a lot of the companies right now, because like Google had a bunch of layoffs as well. Salesforce, the Slack owners had a bunch of layoffs as well, because
Amazon just did too.
Yeah, a lot of these companies staffed up for pandemic reasons, and now that we're out of the pandemic, they're cleaning house, and it's disgusting, but it's business, unfortunately. But we'll jump into some happier gaming news. As Dave mentioned earlier, Discord support is rumored to be hitting the PS5 in March. So Insider Gaming is reporting that the PS5 7.0 update is slated for, I think, March 8th is the official date that they have, but I don't know how accurate that will be. But Discord full integration will be coming. Currently, Discord only shows like what you're playing and your online status. And Xbox has Discord integration that started in September, and it was pretty clunky, and I think they now have fixed it, or it's currently in the
a couple of the
Xbox testing.
A couple of the Xbox avid Xbox players that I communicate with are saying that it's pretty solid. So
yeah, you don't need your phone anymore for
right.
every time, as opposed to when you did before. Also, in this 7.0 patch will be support to stream PS5 games. So you'll potentially be able to save that hard drive space if you got a good internet connection, just want to stream a game that is a PlayStation 5 game as opposed to having to download it. But Dave, I can't wait for Discord integration in PS5.
With so much crossplay being, you know, like I can remember like 3-4 years ago having a conversation about the unicorns that were doing crossplay and how people were going to talk to each other, and companies being afraid of, you know, like just open source networking, and it, like, what are we going to do if somebody on a computer is talking to somebody on a PlayStation? We can't control that. How do you report them? And, you know, like, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, like, even like Advent just says too, like, what I'm saying is that he can't wait because of how crossplay is growing. Yes, like Warzone, Fortnite, all these games that are becoming like, you can play Fortnite on your phone. And like I was talking about, like, the main reason I love Discord is like, if I'm on my way home and I want to jump into the Discord chat really quick on my phone and tell the team, like, hey, I'm 20 minutes out, I just left, sorry. Like, those are, you can do that on PlayStation, yes, but I would love to, like, you know, to do a Call of Duty night and it not matter what platform you're on. Like, just post in the Discord, hey, at Call of Duty players, we're jumping on at 8:30 at night and we're in party room 2. And whoever wants to be in there can be in there. I don't care if you're playing on your PC, if you're playing on Game Pass, if you're playing on your tablet on Game Pass, I don't care. Like, we're playing, and if you want to join us, this is how you join us. Versus usually now it's like in public you find out that hey, your coworker plays video games. The next question is always what platform, and it's like, and you're just hoping. Like, there's a guy that in the store that I'm training with, there's a guy that plays Destiny. Like, I don't really run into very many Destiny players, like live Destiny players in the wild, let alone working with them. You know, and he plays on PC. Great.
It's because, like, when you're a Destiny player, you have to tell, like, the neighborhood that you're a Destiny player when you move into the neighborhood.
No. You know, so, like, there's, and, like, right now, like, circling back, like, I haven't pre-ordered Destiny 2 Lightfall yet. And the reason I haven't pre-ordered it yet is because currently the best experience I can get on that game is on my brand new PC. Like, there's no frame lock. There's no, like, it runs great on PS5 at 60 frames a second, and I can adjust the field of view. It runs better at 180 frames a second. Like, And the thing that's been holding me back, though, is my friends. Like, the 90% of the people that I play Destiny with play on PlayStation.
That sounds like really negative. You're like, you know who's holding me back? My friends. Really holding me back right
but
now.
It's what's stopping me from fully switching to PC. But if Discord works, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if somebody's playing on Xbox. It doesn't matter if they're playing on PC, if they're playing on PlayStation. Like, it doesn't matter. They can play the game with us and jump into the thing. And the same thing, like, Branham, Justin, he really, really likes his Xbox Elite 2 controller. Like, and so that's what if he's playing a shooter, he's basing it off of, is it on Xbox? If it's on Xbox, I'm playing it because the controller's better. That's his decision right now, and that's great for him. He found something he really likes, but he can't, like, if we're going to play Call of Duty together, like, we have to go in game chat.
Yeah. Do you remember when Battlefield recently came out and they're like, we don't have voice chat, and they added it in later? Do you think Discord integration finally happening will mean studios would get away without having?
I think so, and it's a resource they don't have to worry about anymore. Like, I don't even know what that costs. When I'll do you one better. I know you're not a fan of this, but Killzone Shadowfall didn't have game chat, because they thought everybody should and would use the PS Party chat.
Yeah,
like, to the where they didn't even develop, and they had to patch it in because it was like one of the number one demanded things, because a lot of people were adverse to change, and they didn't like, what do you mean I could be in a party and somebody else that's not playing Killzone can be in my party with me? Like, what kind of weird stuff is that? And like, now it's common practice. I'm sure that if you're in the Discord channel with your buddies or wherever your Discord server, and there's 6 or 8 of you in there, like, you guys aren't all playing the same game at the exact same time.
Yeah, no, it's rare. We have different servers and, or different channels within it that people are hopping on different games. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I hope this is seamless, especially because, Sony put, like, was it $250 million into Discord? I hope it's better experience first go around.
I think this goes back to, I hate to say this, but this goes back to, like, they're not building their software and hardware with outside sources in mind. Sony's not. Like, we heard this before. We heard, like, crossplay wouldn't work, or they said it wouldn't work, or this kind of circles back to, like, no, you can't just Bluetooth connect to a PlayStation 5. We're PlayStation. You have to use this dongle. And so there's a lot of those things. Like, we heard a lot of that. I remember one of the E3s we went to right before the PS5 was getting ready to come out, and you and I would go to, like, a headphone place, and they'd be like, well, we don't really know what Sony's gonna, like, Sony hasn't let us see the PS5 box, and we don't know how it's gonna connect. We don't know how it's gonna work. We assume that we're gonna have to use a dongle. We would love for it to just be an integrated Bluetooth, but that's a pipe dream. Like, it's so, like, I'm wondering if Sony had to foot this money to Discord to go, like, oh, you want us to work with that? No, that's gonna cost you, homie. Yeah.
Or they just want to be like, hey, we just want to have the best Discord experience out of the gate.
Right.
Because I'm going to be really bummed, because Xbox's steps were convoluted Discord integration that involves using your phone every time to start the call, to not having to do that. And I'm going to be mad come March if PlayStation's like, guess what? For the first couple months, you're going to have to use your phone every time, and then we'll transition you to not having to do it. I feel like from the get-go, they just need to have full Discord integration, like Xbox does, where it's like, it's just the voice channels, because no one expects the text channels and stuff to come through. But that would be pretty cool.
I think they should.
I think that would be great. But, like, they better have to where I could just go into my server and pick the voice chat that I need to get into.
Advent said you got to use the PS app to open Discord.
I mean, that's how it was on Xbox. And that's the dumb thing. It was like, load up the Xbox app and then load up the Discord app. It's stupid. I refused to use it because I was like, I'm not doing this every time. But that isn't really an issue anymore. Here's hoping. Though if anyone would surprise me on this launch, it would be PlayStation. And honestly, if you're PlayStation, launch The Last of Us multiplayer game beta during the week you put Discord integration. Just set PSN on fire.
Or like the rumor is, if this is going to be truly free to play, and if it is free to play, that means it comes to PC as well. And again, just, hey, Last of Us drops on Friday. Discord integration goes live Thursday night. Have at it.
Here's the beta Discord server to give us feedback and cause pure chaos. Do it. But speaking of The Last of Us, episode 1 of The Last of Us hit HBO this past weekend. Dave, I believe you've watched it.
I have.
I've watched it. Apparently a lot of people watched it because HBO announced that the first episode drew 4.7 million viewers, and it's the second highest premiere behind House of Dragon over the last decade, which drew 9.8 million. So Last of Us drew 4.7 million, House of Dragon put 9.8 million. The last premiere to hit a number this high that isn't related to Game of Thrones was Boardwalk Empire in 2010 that produced 4.8 million viewers. So this is pretty good. We also have to take into account it went against NFL playoff football.
Yes, it did.
Wild card weekend.
Very good games, too.
Yeah.
Like some very entertaining games.
So this number is really good considering it drew that number and was competing against football.
Mm-hmm. And I would be curious about, so that's 4.7 million. I would assume that's 4.7 million live viewers.
I believe so, yeah.
So I'd be really curious because I know some people like myself didn't watch it Sunday night. Angela was snoring away on the couch. So,
and you were probably into whatever football game was
I
at
was,
the time.
Yeah. I mean, I was ready to watch it and she fell asleep. So, but, and then I think we were going to watch it like Monday or Tuesday morning, Monday morning, because I didn't have to be to work until 9, and she was still trying to get up at a decent time, and then she saw it was like an hour and a half, and she's like, okay, well, we don't have enough time, because we thought maybe at worst it was like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like I'll be very, very interested to see. I didn't really read through all these bullet points, but obviously House of Dragon, like, had a adamant fan following of the show already, like before it premiered. Like the people were waiting for that. So I feel for this to be, I guess for it to be similar to Boardwalk Empire is phenomenal.
Yeah, especially when you look at the number Boardwalk put up, it was in 2010. So it's been 13 years that a show for HBO hasn't popped this high. A new franchise, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like, so even Advent saying in the chat, he wonders if episode 2 is going to draw even more with how strong the buzz is it has. I personally recommend the show to anyone who let me talk long enough. I agree. Like, I'm wondering, and I'm also hoping, but not hoping at the same time, that this does not become. I don't want this to be must-watch Sunday night because you're afraid of like turning the radio on Monday morning. Because I feel like Walking Dead or going to work Monday morning, because I feel like Walking Dead for a certain point in time was at that level. I didn't watch Walking Dead, but people would be like, it's Wednesday, you can't, like, it's free reign to talk about Walking Dead now.
I want that.
I do, but I don't, because I worry about not being able to watch it every Sunday night.
Because it's football season right now.
Well, not even football. Okay. It's 9 o'clock at night. Like, I got a 7-year-old kid. Like, I have a 7-year-old kid. Sometimes I have to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Monday.
You pull an all-nighter, sir.
But there could be anything that, there's only a few football games left anyways, and none of them will be on at 9 o'clock the next 3 weeks. By the way,
okay, I don't know. I don't really watch football.
It's fine, but I'm just more worried about if I'm at work, or I have to do something. Like, I would love it, but I don't want it. Like, but at the same time, like, it used to be similar scale of like you almost felt like you had to watch Mandalorian on a Wednesday morning during the pandemic before you opened Twitter.
Yeah, and but the only good thing for your case is you played the game, and this is one of the most faithful adaptations that I think we've seen. Where my favorite thing is like the next day, people just putting a cutscene from the game and a scene from the TV show and being like, they used almost word for word.
Yep.
So you'll be good for that. But
no, I'm just like, I get it. Like, I know that, I didn't watch it, but I played the game, like, and we know what's going on. And for those of you that may or may not have watched it, it's almost, I didn't really see very much personal liberty in the game. I mean, in the movie, in the show compared to the game.
No, it's been pretty straightforward, even down to some of the clothing that they have the characters wear.
Yeah, so
they added a musical element in terms of like using music as a code
Actually, like, and we're kind of dipping into our playing and watching, which is I think is why you put this there, because I didn't really get a chance to play a lot because of so much football. And
let's just talk about The Last of Us. Sorry, people that are haven't
the thing
watched
that actually
episode
I was
1.
the most taken aback by, that that is the beginning, the very like that little 5-minute television show conversation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, that was a great table setter for the show, and it just made you uneasy how they just introduced everything to the world, or introduced everyone to the world. I really loved how they did that. That was pretty damn clever, because it just set like a weird tone for what you're about to watch. Very calm and very chilling before they jumped into like the beginning of the game, basically. But they also added a lot. That's probably the only liberty they took, is they added a bunch of stuff to set the table in terms of like, here's
like her
Joel.
going to the neighbor's house.
Yeah,
they
they basically are like, in the video game. Spoilers: Joel has a daughter named Sarah, and this show basically is just like, hey, in the game you don't
we
really
just
spend.
Lost like 10 viewers. Thanks.
Oh yeah, I don't care. In the show, in the game you don't really get time with Sarah,
Correct.
like at all. Yeah. And the show is like, hey, we have 90 minutes for this first episode. We're going to spend time with Joel and Sarah and make you care about these characters, which I think was a brilliant move before basically like The Last of Us we know starts. Such a damn good show. Like I want to talk spoilers like in depth, but we probably shouldn't for the sake of some people. But I like budget wise, Dave. I don't know if you really saw anything that would make you think this is like low budget show or anything. Everything seemed pretty high quality.
I have a friend that's like a movie, like he's been in movies and he's done a lot of cinematography stuff, and he just says that some CG stuff might be a little,
towards the end of the episode.
Not on Game of Thrones quality. Because what I was hoping is that. And like I said, like I hope that this ends up being in the mainstream conversation, like Walking Dead, Sopranos, Game of Thrones, became.
I think it very easily could hit Sopranos, Walking Dead level, because you don't need a lot of CGI for this, and a lot of the sets were actually practical. Like they built Boston over in, I think, in Toronto or Vancouver. They built like several blocks out of Boston. So they used practical sets whenever they could. And I will admit there's probably like one or two sections towards the end where I'm like, CGI is okay. But also I don't think that's what anyone's coming to the show for.
Right.
What's going to be the true test, because spoilers again, you don't see any clickers in the first episode really. Or at least full-blown clickers.
Yeah,
so that's going to be
runners.
Yeah, that's going to be the true test in episode 2. Is like, how do they look? How CGI'd are they, or how practical are they? And that will probably ultimately like tell you if the show's going to survive. Because if they can't pull that off right, like no one's going to be really into the show. But in terms of like nailing the source material, like I don't think we've seen a better adaptation to screen for what they're pulled off in episode 1.
Correct. So let me ask, are you going to be disappointed if this is almost like page for page like the first game? Like if you know almost every major plot point, like do you want them to take even a small detour or a small liberty of like spending like spending more time maybe on a Joel flashback than they would never have in a game?
I think we are going to get that sort of stuff based on if you saw the trailer at the end of the episode that was basically, here's what the season's going to entail, and the show basically showed you like, hey, here's like every emotional point in the game will be featured in this first season, and I think they already said the first season is the entire first game, which is going to be interesting to see what happens with season 2. I think season 2 will be a detour. That's where they're going to flesh things out. But
so they want to build the audience and hook the audience based on, they want to get the gameplay audience, the gamers that played the game to watch this 9 episodes of this, and they want to get mainstream people to watch this 9 episodes of this, build the foundation, and then go their own direction.
Yeah. I think they will be taking some liberties, or not like liberties, that almost sounds like I'm expecting them to do something wrong. But I think they will expand on certain stuff. Like, you know, we already know like Bill has been cast. And just in some of the previews of Bill, he's interacting with characters that I don't remember ever seeing him interact with. So I think we might get background on Bill's character. Mm-hmm. We might end up getting some background on Tommy. And I think that's where the show could like really take advantage of its medium, as opposed to in the game it just had to be like, you know, everything happening in the current time, maybe a flashback once. I think we'll get a couple more flashbacks in the show, which is what I would want, because I don't mind them hitting every game point. I'm looking forward to them recreating the gymnasium scene, and I want to see how they pull that off, and I hope it's there. I don't mind them hitting beat for beat the video game. What I am going to be curious about is, what do you do for season 2? Like, if they want the show to be a success, they're going to have to stretch the show out. So
well, I feel like there's tons of time they can focus on like they could flesh out what happened in the beginning of Last of Us Part 2. When you're
and that's what I was hoping for, because Last of Us Part 1, Joel makes a decision, and then Part 2 is like 7 years later. Or 5 years later.
You have all that time in between.
And that could be season 2 before you get to part 2. And
they could probably do two or three seasons before they get to part 2.
Yeah, and that would be perfect for the people invested in the Last of Us universe, and also perfect for the people that hated The Last of Us Part 2. You know, they could get more time with Joe and Ellie, even though it's, you know, the Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey version and not the Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson one. But I really think like there's a lot they can do with the show if they want to, but I think the first season will probably be quote unquote paint by numbers, because it has to. And I'm fine with that. If it holds up the quality that we had in episode 1. Do you have any hopes for this?
I mean,
story-wise,
I mean, I'd like to see some more things fleshed out. I mean, we did, like, in the game, we did have I felt like we had a pretty massive jump from, like, didn't we jump from, like, Pittsburgh to Colorado?
No, I think Boston to Pittsburgh jump, and then Pittsburgh to Colorado. Yeah, so we
had a kind of a pretty, like, massive jump of a time span of where and that's where I think they could flesh out, you know, more of the characters and more of the, you know, like what they're doing, and even more of, you know, there's all that speculation of, like, people are already trying to speculate, like, where the disease came from. Like, I've seen rumblings about that. You know, they didn't talk about that, but you could read about that a little bit in, like, some of the, like, the little, like, notebooks and things and you would find.
I think that's why we got that intro for the show that we got. Of, like, people being kind of aware that it's a possibility with the thing that took place in the 70s. So I'm hoping we do get, like, a drip feed of that. I don't want, like, a whole flashback episode.
Yeah.
But I do want them to find a way to recreate the newspaper clippings or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, like, I'm kind of, like, there was a part of me, like, watching that very introductory scene where I'm like, this is hitting a little close to home right now.
No, and that was the point. And it was effective.
Yeah.
It was super effective.
Because it was literally somebody going, COVID versus fungus, essentially.
No, and then also being like, the fungus will thrive if the world warmed up. And it's just like, you son of a bitch. Like,
So it's like, So, I feel like at this point in time, if you're somebody that likes to binge stuff, I don't recommend waiting. Even if you played the game, like, I don't recommend waiting.
And it's too heavy to binge, I think.
This is not something you could watch on a Saturday afternoon. I feel like watch episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. Like, you could.
So Dave, like, everyone that I've talked to Advent, me and Sarah watched it. The car scene in the beginning of the episode, even though you've played it and you don't really get that, like, emotional, you felt like some intensity during that scene or tension, right?
Angela was waiting. Angela was like putting the shirt over her nose and stuff, like pulling her shirt up. Like, I'm like, well, you know what's gonna happen, and she's like, yeah, but watching it versus you playing it is completely different.
But that's the thing, is like, the show is that effective to where that's why I don't think this is a binge show. Like, I don't think anyone, like, I think everyone walked out of episode 1 being like, I want to see the next episode, but I don't think anyone's going to be like, you know what, I'm going to dedicate the next 13 hours of my day to watching this heavy ass show about like humanity at its worst. Like it's definitely going to benefit from week to week entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean the viewer count is like just crazy high, which is great to see. Some of the choices they it sounds like some of like I know like pretty sure like Troy Baker's in this.
Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson are going to have
capacity.
cameos.
I believe the character that plays Nadine is the character that voiced Nadine.
Marlene,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is the actress. That voiced.
So, I do like how they handled certain things that, that we as the player played through that worked in a video game but wouldn't have worked in a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are certain things that happen in Last of Us game that just can't and should not happen in a live action television show.
Which is why the gymnasium scene is going to be super key to how the show is going to handle that stuff.
I mean, getting the battery could have gone way different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then the same thing Advent said, the people that made the clicker noises are helping make the clicker noises in this show as well.
Which is just brilliant. Like, you already have the assets made. Like, you already have those recordings. You might as well use them.
We could have gotten Chris Platt clickers.
Can you, Angela, can you ban that, man? Don't ban him. Don't ban him. Angela just hears, like, can you ban that person? And just goes into autopilot and bans him. Yeah, no Chris Pratt clicker. No, please don't. Chris Pratt as the gymnasium monster.
Do you think that we live in a streaming aspect right now where if this show continues to draw these viewers in a month that HBO Max says, hey, you can watch, you get everybody gets a 7-day free trial of HBO Max to watch Last of Us? Do you think that they could start using this as promotional material to grow their subscription base by giving it away for like a couple of days before they
they did it for episode 1.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they did it for episode 1. So I can see them doing that. They do that during Game of Thrones. They've been known to do that during Game of Thrones.
I think I get HBO Max because of my AT&T cell phone bill, so I don't even pay attention.
Yeah, everyone's like grandfathered in from AT&T. Yeah. I don't know how long that's going to last because they don't own them, so I just hope to get through the season. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like how Warner Brothers HBO Max platform the show.
Right.
Because they now know that they have word of mouth and they have like a strong 4.7 million.
Does it come down to like they have to sit at a table and go, hey, how come this isn't growing? And be like, well, 74% of our subscribers are watching this, so the only way to get more people to watch it is to get more subs. Okay, well, how do we get more subs? Well, you got to give stuff away for free.
Got to give stuff away free, or maybe don't delete half your catalog for no reason.
Yeah, that's just
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how fast before the show's renewed. It hasn't been renewed yet. Right. Typically, HBO, Netflix will renew a show within a couple episodes, which is going to be key for this just because, like, they have big actors in the show, or they have Pedro Pascal in the show, so they need to, like, work around his schedule, which means we could end up going a year or two without another season.
But this is also kind of going on the heels of, I don't know if you paid any attention to this, but they released some funky Scooby-Doo show, Velma.
Yeah.
Where they did some crazy like headline manipulation to be like, it's the coolest animated show on HBO.
And you just go on Twitter and everyone's like, this is the worst show.
Right. Everybody's like, what animated shows do you have, HBO?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that people just coming to HBO for this show are probably going to click on
being plastered with Velma in front of them.
Yeah, and are going to watch an episode or two, and HBO is going to be like, Velma performed pretty well, even though most of the people are hate watching that show. But yeah, no, I was really happy for this. I was joking with someone yesterday. Do you think the creators of the Twisted Metal TV show are like, shit?
I think they were already when they had to make a TV show. It does make me very intrigued for, like, you're setting a bar. I know it's only one episode, but you're setting a bar high for whatever this God of War adaptation is going to be. Like, you're setting the bar
the Horizon
really, really
adaptation.
I would almost argue more. Like, I think Horizon might be easier to pull off than God of War would be. Like, you're essentially making a god.
Yeah, God of War is like, that's going to be the hardest casting that they have to do. It's going to be way more expensive of a show if you do God of War right. Because
I'm not demeaning Aloy at all, but you find
someone in
nice,
a girl in the wilderness.
Redhead.
Yeah. In the wilderness, and it's also going to take place, I think they said, in present day. So they're not going to have to spend as much money on like a futuristic world because there's going to be present day stuff. Drop some like teenage girl off in New Zealand with a camera and have like one mechanical dinosaur, and you're good. But God of War is going to be like very CGI based. That if that CGI looks bad, oof. But if you're the Twisted Metal show, like, not that you want to compare Twisted Metal to The Last of Us, but the next PlayStation branded TV show coming is Twisted Metal in a couple months. And then Gran Turismo movie.
Oh, is that coming in a couple months?
This year, I believe summer is, because they finished shooting it.
I'm calling it right now. Oh wait, they finished shooting it?
I believe so. Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm calling it right now. That show is going to show up in our What's Delayed segment this summer.
Potentially. Yeah, I want to say Twisted Metal is this year. And I only know that because a wrestler was filming it and then disappeared for a while and then came back. So I'm assuming he's done. Yeah, I'm a really big Anthony Mackie fan. So that's happening. The Gran Turismo movie, I think, is this year. They had a trailer at CES, but I don't have any expectations for Gran Turismo.
So they had a trailer with cars?
Yes. It's like, what if it's Fast and the Furious without the fury? It's just cars. Will be that.
But what if it's Disney cars but with real cars?
Yeah. Like, oh god, like there's gonna be so many. Do you think after this happened, like Jim Ryan was like, open the catalog, let's see what else we can do? Because I don't know if you saw, Dave, but the Last of Us Part 1 remastered or whatever it's called, remake. Okay. There's a 2-hour free trial now for the game on PS5. Started this weekend.
It comes out on PC like next month, right?
March.
Like I think I think it hits PC when the season ends.
Yes. Yeah. It's
like
9 episode
season ends like March 12th, and the game comes out like March 15th or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, so I'd be really curious. Like, we saw the uptick with Witcher sales with the Witcher show. With this coming out on PC,
will Last of Us Part 1 hit the MPDs on a PS5 is what I'm curious about.
Yeah, that's true too. But I'd be really fascinated to see something like, oh, you want to know more about this world? Like, play the game on PC next week, like at the end of the season finale or something like that. Like,
I feel like the first episode, based on the numbers it did and how well people are talking about it, Jim Ryan either was like, let's bust open the catalog to see what else we can produce, or 2 was like, Naughty Dog, for the love of God, have your multiplayer game ready to go by the end of the show. Because like they need to take advantage of this opportunity as much as possible. And the only one that's feasible in this timeline is the multiplayer game.
Evan, do not start playing Last of Us 2 until the season's over. Don't do it.
No, I think he should.
No, he should not start it until the season is over. The show is over.
Nah, just do it.
Trust me, I like you apparently better than Michael likes you. So.
I'm just saying, when season 1 ends and all you see is arms clanking against a bench press, you'll know what that means. You'll know Abby's coming. I want an MCU teaser at the end of the season of just a woman working out, and then
he's gotta trust me. I'm just saying, man. There's stuff that just wait till the season's done.
Nah, I think you can go for it.
All right. So yeah, we knew we were gonna kind of go deep into Last of Us a little bit. We're still trying to be careful, like walk on non-spoiler water here. Yeah, like I'm just letting people catch up on the episodes as well as our episodes. So I'm sure that we'll probably, I don't know. Like I was actually, I had tempered expectations for this show, but I'm also kind of starting to think, Michael, like maybe we should try to do some type of, if there's 9 episodes, like should we do some type of bonus content like every third?
We'll see how the 3rd episode goes. Like, I know I will
Even
want to
if it's
do
only
a
like a
season
half an
wrap-up.
hour or 40 minutes, you know, like
Yeah.
if we, you know, like we try to like get like 4 episodes of bonus content after episode 3, after episode 6, I guess 3 episodes. So
Yeah.
just kind of see like where it's at.
Just gauge.
I'm
where
definitely
it's
in the
at.
part of 2023 where I want to get, you know, maybe, and I haven't talked to you about this like off air at all, but maybe to the point of where we're not as heavily focused on numbered episodes as we are more on a little bit of specialization.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
that's definitely something that we're going to be dabbling with.
Yeah, and it might be maybe we do 3 episodes a month that are numbered and then a specialization. I don't even know. Maybe it's you know, 7 episodes and a special episode, like, you know, breaking it up a little bit. Just you know, that's fine. I got some, you know, there's some clamoring in my Destiny Discord for, like, they just released a couple things getting ready for Lightfall. There's a couple people that are like, hey, get a couple of my, you know, community leaders within my Destiny group on to do something like that, so Michael can take a week off. Let Michael do a wrestling show. I can take a week off. You know, like there could be anything going on. It could even be like we don't take a week off, but we just add an extra piece of content, you know. So, But, you know, we really would love to hear what you guys as a community would like us to do. Like, would you like, you know, a seasonal wrap up? Would you like a mid-season impressions of Last of Us? You know, do you want more discussion around the Mandalorian? Do you want us, you know, like if Michael and I see Ant-Man and the Wasp, like do you want to hear something specific about that outside of a numbered episode? You know, time is obviously a factor, which is why I talk about like maybe skipping a number and doing a special, and then doing like 6 more numbers and then doing a special. You know, just as very, very broad basic examples, I'm using Ant-Man and Wasp as just a generic thing. Judgment spoiler episode. You know, and to truth be told, like some of the stuff that we might, you know, because it takes time, effort, and energy, we might put it behind a Patreon wall as well. You know, just depending. So like we do have the Patreon that you guys can check out. We are doing, you know, putting some cool stuff together, hopefully for 2023 for the Patreon. Part of the reason I was talking about picking up Destiny on the PC versus on PlayStation with the Discord integration is because it's just way easier to stream, like way easier. Not, you know, I don't know if you guys would watch me play Destiny once a week or not, but, you know, I know that everybody's been clamoring for more streams. So there's, you know, I'm still like Midnight Suns is still on the list. Gotham Knights is on my PC. I'm sure that, you know, maybe like I'll be like Advent. I'll want to, after I watch season 1, I'll want to replay Last of Us 1, you know, like maybe I'll pick that up on PC. Like, I don't know. Like, so, I mean, there's a ton of different stuff going on. Like, maybe we can get Michael to stream again. So
Maybe. Who knows? Miracles do happen.
I was talking to somebody else. They're like, Michael always streamed like an obscure game, and every one of somebody said 1 out of every 3 games that you would stream, they would pick up.
Yeah, I just need to get into like a streamer mode.
Yeah.
And I just haven't been into that mode.
I think we need to schedule you. Like, I need to say like, hey, every other Sunday at 8:00, you got to do something.
Yeah, it's something I either need to schedule, but I'm also hitting the point where like the reason I kind of started to stop is my PC was starting to show its age, and then it would be just a little frustrating to try and do everything. So yeah, I mean that's why I usually stuck to like indie games, is because it's like, all right, my PC can run this perfectly and stream at the same time. But it's definitely something I do want to get back into eventually. Like me and Dave have talked about doing a schedule, but every time we like get into it, I think we do like 2 or 3 weeks, and then life event happens. Yeah, and then we get off.
You change jobs, I change jobs. I've got a new building opening. Like there's so much going on.
Stuff always happens. Like Dave right now, his schedule is actually okay. I don't know what Dave's schedule is gonna look like in like 2 months.
Better. There might be like a 3-week window where
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That 3-week window is when I'm probably gonna have to call up like Josh or Chris or someone to be like, hey,
Josh, Chris, Chandler, Advent, somebody like, hey man, Dave's on LOA for like 21 days.
Yeah, Dave's pulling out whatever hair he has left.
Gotta keep it short.
Yeah, Dave's like, hey, I found a way to keep this nice and shiny.
Yeah. All right, so please interact. Discord, Facebook, Twitter, anything. Like, if you think of a question, you think of an idea, like, it doesn't go nowhere. Like, it either goes into my head, I make a note of it, Michael copies it to a Google Doc. Like, your feedback and all that stuff always goes somewhere. Like, somebody sent me a Patreon message this week, like, hey, I had totally forgotten about Nobody Saved the World until you said it was one of the games that you really enjoyed. I played it over the weekend, and it was fantastic. I beat it in a weekend. Like, that's a lot of hours. But so, like, I think Joseph DeFrank, it was like, just, he loved it. Those are things that make what we do worth doing. Seeing people's interactions, like telling Michael, like, the random games, Randy, that asks questions periodically, he started playing Vampire Slayer because we talked about it. So, like, and he's like, I would have never played it. Like, that would not have been something that I would have just picked up and done. But he's like, I heard you talking about it, and I picked it up and played it. So, and I enjoyed it, so. But please let us know on socials. Main account for Twitter is @DigitalDaysPod. Michael's is @TheFirstMJC. Mine is @GoodDaveHunt. We've got the Facebook group. We've got the Discord server that we've been talking about. Patreon.com/DigitalDaysGaming. Again, we're live on Twitch. Twitch.tv/DigitalDaysGaming. Joining the group, joining the Discord, following us on Twitter, following us on Twitch. Those are all free. There are other ways that you want to choose to support us. That's totally up to you. Anybody that is willing to use their Twitch sub on us is super great. If anybody that's willing to support us on Patreon in any form, like, you're awesome and amazing. And just downloading the show, sharing the show, those are all free ways. Those all help the show grow tremendously as well. So we appreciate everybody, and we hope that you guys are having a great beginning of 2023. I love that we can start mixing the video game world and the entertainment world and the video game world and the television world together in a way that allows us to almost dedicate an episode to it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I know I just rambled monologue.
Yeah, you just went for like 7 minutes. We should just wrap it up there, Dave.
So I hope everyone has a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.